Hello and welcome to this tutorial called The Hidden Delights of Directional Shaping. My name's Natalie Warner and I go by Natalie in Stitches. I'm going to take you through this important technique for knitting garments. Mirrored symmetry is the key to directional shaping because we have both a left and a right side. You can see here on the neckline that this jumper has got shaping symmetrically on either side of the neck, and that makes it easier for you to pick up stitches for the neckline and do finishing afterwards, like seaming. So we have directional shaping naturally in knitting for this symmetry. For example, when we cast off stitches at the base of an armhole or for each shoulder, we do so over 2 rows. This is because we can knit in only one direction. In practice, we end up casting off the first group of stitches on the right side, or RS as you often see in patterns of our knitting, and then after we've completed that right side row, we cast off the second group of stitches on the wrong side, often WS in patterns of our knitting. This means that the second group of cast off stitches will be 1 row higher than the first group, but please don't worry, this is completely normal. Your sweater or cardigan will be perfectly balanced once it's joined at the shoulders. This is because of the mirrored symmetry in knitting. It's the only way to have a matching left side and right side. So, as for cast off stitches, decreased stitches work in the same symmetrical way. We have decreases for the left side and decreases for the right side. And so, because we have decreases for left and right, we can divide our directional shaping into 2 groups. We have left sloping decreases, which angle towards the top left, and we have right sloping decreases, which are angled towards the top right. For the left sloping decreases, we have slip slip knit and slip slip purl, and for the right sloping decreases, we have knit 2 together and purl 2 together. And also, in this same group, we have decreases that we can work on the right side of the knitting and decreases worked on the wrong side of the knitting. And so when you have the right side of the knitting facing you, you'll be doing either slip slip knit or knit 2 together. And if you have the wrong side facing you, you'll be doing either slip slip purl or purl 2 together. Here's a little matrix for you to see how it all fits together, and so that you'll know which decrease to work depending on which side of the knitting you're on and whether you have a left sloping or a right sloping decrease to do. So don't worry if this is a little bit overwhelming. This is just a little reference for you to keep and refer to in your own time. But now it's time for a little tutorial to bring it all together so you can see the process in action. So to begin this directional shaping tutorial, I'm going to start off with casting off stitches at the beginning of the next 2 rows. This is a directional shaping instruction you'll see in a lot of sweater and cardigan knitting patterns so that you can contour the armholes and the shoulders. So we'll begin with the armholes, and it's much the same for the shoulders, but we'll get to that in time. And I've just prepared by casting on 33 stitches, and what I'm going to do next is cast off 3 stitches at the beginning of the next 2 rows. So because knitting is directional, we have to take this 1 row at a time. 1 set of cast off stitches on the knit row, which I'm about to do over this stocking stitch fabric, and then the following set of 3 will be over purl stitches when we're looking at the wrong side. So to begin with, we cast off 3 stitches, and we just do that in the normal way. So we begin by knitting 2 stitches, and then grabbing the back one, lifting it over the front one and off the end of the needle, and then we repeat that once more to cast off the second stitch, and then 1 more time to get 2 stitches on the right hand needle, grab the back stitch, lift it over the front stitch and off the end. So we've cast off our first group of 3 stitches, and we can safely continue to the end of the row having completed the first part of that direction. So I'm just going to knit until the end of the row, and if you had a stitch pattern at this point, then you would just continue in that pattern as set, but just because this is possibly the first time that many of you are doing this technique, I'm keeping it very simple with stocking stitch fabric, but please know that the technique stays much the same regardless of the type of knitting stitch or fabric you're creating, whether it's cables, lace or colour work. So I've just got to the end. I'm going to turn over or change hands so that the knitting is now in my left hand, ready to begin the next purl row. And I'm going to cast off 3 stitches at the beginning of this row, except that because the stitches are now on the purl side, I need to cast them off purlwise. So the previous side was knit, so I knitted the stitches to cast them off. This time I'm going to do exactly the same thing, but over purl stitches instead. So the process is identical apart from the fact that we have purl stitches. So we purl 2 stitches, so purl 1, purl 2, grab the stitch at the back, lift it over the one at the front and off the end of the needle. Same thing again to do the second stitch, 2 stitches on the right needle, grab the back one, over the front one, off the end, and then one more time so that we have 3 to match the first side. Grab the back, over the front, off the end of the needle. So again, we've just cast off 3 stitches at the beginning of that row, and that's the second of 2, so we can safely continue on until the end. So once again, if you did have any patterning to work on the wrong side, it would be the same principle for the shaping. It would just be a matter of maintaining the pattern as you go. But again, because this is stocking stitch, we're going to keep it simple. Okay. So we're now at the end of the row, and you can see here that we have a little indent at either side. So we've got 3 stitches cast off here for the purl, which we've just done, and then a couple of minutes ago we did the knit stitches. So one will be higher than the other. You can note that the purl side here is directly underneath the needle, and then the knit side we have done 1 row more since we cast off those set of 3 stitches, so it's slightly further away. So by some angles it might look like you've cast off 4 stitches, but this is actually just the extra row that we needed to cast off the purl stitches to match the second side. So if it looks a bit weird or lopsided for you, don't worry about it. That's completely normal. You've done what you needed to do, and you can move on to the next part of the instructions. Now, for the next part of armhole shaping, you'll often be decreasing 1 stitch at a time instead of several stitches all at once cast off, as we just did the first part of this tutorial. And this kind of shaping is also directional, and the main thing to bear in mind is just that principle of symmetry. There needs to be a left and there needs to be a right. And what that means for our knitting is that we will have decreases that slope to the top left, and then we'll have stitches that slope to the top right. So the stitches that will slope to the top left are slip slip knit and slip slip purl, and the stitches that will go to the top right are knit 2 together and purl 2 together. So I'll show you those in action so that you can see how that works in practice. So I'm just going to work these stitches a couple in from the very edge, just so that the result is a bit more exaggerated for you, so you can see exactly how they behave. But in practice, you could put the decreases anywhere. You could put them, work them on the very first stitches of the row, for example, so that they're invisible. But for these purposes, I'm going to set them in so that you can get a really pretty decorative finish. So we have our knitting, and we want to shape this armhole curve so that it slopes to the left hand side. So we're going to need slip slip knit and slip slip purl, and then it'll be the opposite for this side here because we want to come in and go to the right, so that's going to be knit 2 together and purl 2 together. So what that looks like for this example is that we'll knit the first 2 stitches, and then we will do slip slip knit. And to do that, you slip first stitch knitwise, so you go in as if you're going to knit a normal stitch, but you pass it from the left needle to the right needle, and you slip another stitch in exactly the same way, so you insert the right hand needle as if to knit, and then pass it from the left needle to the right, so that you now have 2 slip stitches on your right hand needle. We then take the left hand needle and then slide it in front of those 2 slip stitches so that the right needle is now behind the left, and then we knit those 2 stitches together, and then the stitches are pulled to the left side. It may not look like much just because it's directly underneath the needle, but that's the one, that's the technique. So I'll be doing it again, so don't worry about it if you haven't quite got it, but I'll just hop across to the other side of the row to show the symmetry in action. So I'm just going to keep knitting across, just as I did for casting off the stitches initially. And I'm going to keep going until I have 4 stitches remaining on the left hand needle. So you can see I'm nearly there. So I've got 4 stitches remaining, and then the next thing I'm going to do is to knit 2 together. And knit 2 together just means that you take the 2 knit stitches that are next up on the left hand needle, treat them as though they were one, and then knit them together. So we insert the point of the right hand needle into the second stitch away from the point. So we go in and poke it through both the stitches so that the right needle crosses behind, and then we knit them together. And this pulls the stitches to the right. So we're now left with 2 stitches to mirror the first side where we started with 2 stitches, and we can just knit those 2. So that's the row done. And again, you might not be able to see very much just yet, but rest assured that it is making a difference. You might be able to see a little bit on the camera just now, but I'm going to be repeating this, so don't worry if you're not sure whether you've done it right. So we turn over to the purl side, and then this time we want to do purl 2 together for the first decrease, and then we want to do slip slip purl for the second one. So we begin again by purling 2 stitches, and then we do purl 2 together. So we're taking 2 stitches as though they were one, so in from stitch 1 to stitch 2, so we're going in order that they're presented to us, like that, and then we want to purl them as if they were one, and then that's purl 2 together done. And then again, much like the first side, you see how we're already beginning to mirror things. We're going to purl until we have got 4 stitches remaining on the left hand needle. Okay, so we've got 4 stitches remaining, and then we want to do slip slip purl. So very similar to slip slip knit, except we're purling and we're needing to purl through the back loop. So we slip 2 stitches again, so slip 1 as if to knit, and then slip another one as if to knit, and then we put these stitches back on the left hand needle. And then the next thing that we do, once we put those stitches back on the left hand needle, we keep the yarn at the front, and then with the right needle we're going to swivel it all the way round so that we're going into the back of these stitches. So we're going into this one first and this one, and we're approaching it so that the needles are almost pointing in the same direction. They're going like this. So it'll feel a little bit awkward, but that's a good sign. It means you're doing it right. This is how it goes. And then once we've got the point through, we just need to swing that right needle back so that it's in a normal orientation. And then we can wrap the yarn around and purl those stitches together. And so take it slowly and then just carefully come out the back of those 2 stitches, and then you can remove the left hand needle, and then we can purl the remaining 2 stitches of the row. So I'm just going to look at the right hand side again, and now you can begin to see this little shaping detail. You can see that on the left hand side, as we look at it, we've got a little line forming that is going towards the top left corner. It's going diagonally from bottom left to top right, and then we have got another one on the right hand side going diagonally from bottom right to top left. So this side here on the left is knit 2 together because that's pointing to the top right, and this side here on the right is slip slip knit and slip slip purl because it's pointing towards the top left. So I'll just go through that one more time, just on both sides, just to show you and to really emphasize the effect. So again, we'll begin by knitting 2 stitches. So knit 1, knit 2, and then we slip slip knit. So slip 1 stitch knitwise, slip the next stitch knitwise, put your left needle into the front of the 2 slip stitches on the right needle so that the right needle is behind, and then knit 2 stitches together. And that's slip slip knit, and then we just work until we are again 4 stitches from the end, just a couple more, and then we do our knit 2 together. So take the point of the right hand needle, insert it into the second stitch from the end first, to take both stitches together like so. So the right hand needle crosses behind, and then knit in the normal way. And that's our knit 2 together. And then we can complete the row by knitting 2 more stitches. There we are. So it's starting to look like something, I hope you'll agree. You can see that it's really clearly the directional shaping. So I'll just turn around again and do another purl row, and this time we begin again by purling 2 stitches. So purl 1, purl 2, and then for this side we do purl 2 together. So put the right hand needle through the next 2 stitches on the left needle, and then purl, and that's purl 2 together done. And then we just keep going across this purl row until we have 4 stitches remaining again. There. That's very nearly getting to the end. So we've got 4 stitches remaining, and then we have our slip slip purl. So yarn to the front, slip the next 2 stitches as if you were going to knit them, so slip them knitwise. So slip 1 at a time, 1, and then 2. And then once you've slipped the stitches onto the right hand needle, transfer them straight back onto the left needle. So just pass them from one to the next, like that, so they will look twisted. And then with the right hand needle, we now want to swing that round pretty much 180 degrees, so that we're going into the second stitch first, and then carefully bring it through so that you have got 2 stitches coming through, and then reorientate the needle so that it's in the right position for you to work the next stitch, and then purl these 2 stitches together. So again, pass it out through the back, remove the left hand needle, and then that's slip slip purl done, and then we can purl to end the row. So I'm just going to set this down, and then you can see even more clearly the shaping. You can see it's got a really defined profile going to the top right and the top left. So I'm just going to do one more knit decrease for you, and then just do a regular purl row back to finish. So we knit 2, and then slip slip knit. So slip 1 stitch knitwise, slip the next stitch knitwise, put the left needle into the front of both these 2 slip stitches, and knit the 2 stitches together. And then we keep going until we have 4 stitches remaining on the left hand needle, and then purl 2 together. So take 2 stitches, knit 2 together, sorry, take 2 stitches, see if they were 1 knit stitch, and then knit them together, and then knit 2 to complete the row. Alright, so that there is directional shaping. I'm just going to do one more purl row. I'm going to leave that there so that you can see it and have a look, and then we can get a really good look at what we've done so far and what we've achieved in this tutorial. So I'm just going to turn over and then purl. So just for context, most of the time when you do shaping, they will have you finish on a right side row. This is the case for most knitting patterns, not all, but it doesn't matter. You can just work the decreases wherever you're instructed to, but I do recommend doing directional shaping wherever possible. It just makes life so much easier. It's easier to pick up stitches, it's easier to sew pieces together, and it looks really pretty, so it really can't be bad. So just coming to the end of my cool down row. And there we have it. Directional decreases. So what we did today, so we cast off symmetrically, we cast off at the beginning of 2 rows. We cast off at the beginning of our knit row and work to the end. We cast off at the beginning of the following purl row and work to the end. And then we also worked some directional decreases to continue this right and left symmetry by doing slip slip knit and slip slip purl on the right hand side as we look at it to point to the top left, and then on the left side we did knit 2 together and purl 2 together to point to the top right.